What if I told you that the most hated meal in American military history was also the very thing that helped win the most important war of the 20th century? Imagine this. You are a 19-year-old soldier. You have not slept in 2 days. You have marched 30 miles through freezing rain. Your feet are bleeding. Your body is screaming for food. You reach into your pack, starving, hopping for something hot, something real, and you pull out this. A small, waxed cardboard box. Inside that box is not a meal. It is a punishment. It is a science experiment gone wrong. Soldiers called it many things. Canned vomit, battery acid, dog food. Some said it tasted like a sweaty sock soaked in kerosene. But here is the twist. Without this disgusting, miserable, soul-crushing box of food, the Allies might have lost World War II. Stick around. Because by the end of this video, you will never look at a simple meal the same way again. Before we get to the K-Ration, you need to understand the nightmare that came before it. At the start of the war, feeding millions of soldiers was a logistical disaster. The standard field ration was the C-ration. It came in 6 heavy metal cans. One day's supply weighed over 5 pounds. For a soldier marching through jungles, mountains, or deserts, 5 pounds of food was impossible to carry. So soldiers threw it away. They dumped the cans in the mud. They went hungry, and the taste. Soldiers called it monkey meat. They said it looked like something scraped off the floor of a slaughterhouse. Morale was collapsing. Soldiers were weak. Commanders were desperate. They needed something new, something light, something durable, something that would not spoil. But here is the catch. They also needed it to provide 3,000 calories a day. That is more than most people eat in an entire day today. And they needed it to fit in a soldier's pocket. The task seemed impossible. But one man was crazy enough to try. That man was a scientist named Ancel Keys. He was brilliant, obsessive, and slightly unhinged. Keys locked himself in a laboratory. He experimented with food like a mad scientist. He dehydrated meat. He compressed biscuits. He created powders that looked like food but tasted like poison. The army gave him one rule: make it survive anything. Jungle heat, Arctic cold, monsoon rain. It had to last for years without refrigeration. So Keys created the K-Ration. It was packed into 3 small waxed cardboard boxes per day, one for breakfast, one for dinner, one for supper. Inside each box, soldiers found a small can of processed meat. Soldiers called it mysterious glop. It was a paste that looked like wet cement. It tasted worse. There were also hard biscuits so tough they could chip a tooth. And then there was the lemonade powder. Soldiers called it battery acid. It was so sour that drinking it made your stomach turn inside out. But here is the thing soldiers loved: 4 cigarettes. For many soldiers, the cigarettes were worth more than the food. They would trade their entire meal just for a smoke. Think about that for a second. The food was so bad that soldiers would rather starve than eat it. Now here is where the story gets brutal. British troops in India had to survive on nothing but K-rations for 5 months. 5 months. 150 days of the same disgusting paste, same rock-hard biscuits, same sour lemonade. The experience was so traumatic that after the war, just seeing the cardboard box would make some soldiers vomit. Literally. The sight of it triggered their gag reflex. Soldiers in the Pacific ate K-rations in sweltering jungle heat. The food often spoiled. It grew mold. It smelled like death. But they ate it anyway because there was nothing else. Soldiers in Europe ate them in freezing conditions. The biscuits froze solid. Soldiers had to warm them with their body heat before eating. But here is the twist. Despite all of this misery, the K-ration worked. It gave soldiers the energy to march, to fight, to survive. Paratroopers on D-Day carried K-rations in their pockets. Marines on Pacific Islands lived on them for weeks. It was the fuel that powered the Allied war machine. Without the K-ration, soldiers would have been too weak to fight, too slow to advance, too exhausted to win. So here we are. The most hated meal in history. The meal that made soldiers vomit. The meal that tasted like punishment. And yet it was also the meal that helped save the world. Here is the truth about war. It is not just about courage. It is not just about strategy. It is about logistics. It is about supply chains. It is about making sure a 19-year-old kid in a muddy trench has enough calories to pull the trigger. The K-ration is a reminder that sometimes the most unglamorous things are the most important. It was never meant to be delicious. It was meant to be functional, and in that function it was a miracle millions of boxes were produced, millions of soldiers were fed, and millions of lives were saved. So the next time you complain about a bad meal at a restaurant, remember the K-Ration. Remember the soldiers who ate it. Remember the sacrifice. History is not just dates and facts. It is human stories. And sometimes those stories come in a small, waxed cardboard box. Thank you for watching. If you made it this far, drop a comment below. What would you have traded for a hot meal? And do not forget to subscribe, because the next video will take you even deeper into the untold stories of history's greatest conflicts.